all of that. Okay. So to get to know each other and to welcome each other into the space, we do something called soul stirring. So what has been stirring your soul lately? Question we want to ask to welcome you into the space. I am just going to put into the chat 2 Instagram accounts that are really giving me life lately and helping me see the world differently and on a wider spectrum. And I'll put those in the chat. I am Jennifer Lentfer. I am calling from downtown Washington, D.C., where it will be 100 degrees, well over 30 today. Very, very hot. And I am packing and moving. This is my reality right now. So welcome all. And please, if you can put in the chat, who are you? Where are you in the world? And just any piece of writing or performance, music, art that's moving you lately, that is stirring your soul. And what we'll do is we'll put this into our running Google Doc that we share also in the collective for all things soul stirring as a resource for everyone when they need a bit of inspiration or connection. So please share, and I'll put that in the chat as well. What is a piece of writing, art, performance, or music that has stirred your soul recently? So a little bit about this space and what we're here to do before we get started. We're here to connect. It's pretty simple. We want to build a community where everybody feels supported because we are ushering in narrative change. By the way, that's really tough work. That is a really hard thing to do. And we're all stumbling together. We do better when we do it together, right? So that's why we created this community about a year ago. Today, we're going to look at creativity as a source of individual and collective healing. And, you know, really, I think it's a time for us to understand how imagination can also shape our leadership. So wherever you are in whatever space you're in, please feel free to gather some art making materials. And I will say that very broadly because I have a painting on my kitchen that I just packed that's like pen on paper serviette, paper napkin. So it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to have all kinds of stuff. But anything that helps you feel, that helps you express. Doesn't have to be special. And then finally today, we're going to harvest some of the wisdom and knowledge that we all have because it's here within us, and really get through some practical ideas about this shifting of narratives. And today's focus is going to be on the notion of wholeness. It's something that Neha Misra, our guest last month, talked a lot about. And so this is a chance to really explore that idea, that concept, how you embrace that, how you think about that in your own life and in your own work. So just a few ideas before we get started. And as you do that, I'm going to show you the slide that's really all about what we're here for today. So, okay. So just a few rules to guide us that really help kind of shape our space together. This is a time of learning and not critique. I always say that this wonderful professional life, really all of our educational privilege prepares us to tear things apart, but we also need to put them back together. And so we're here to learn and not necessarily critique. I will say that this is a brave, but not necessarily a safe space. We don't promise you won't be pushed to the edge of the comfort zone, but we also feel like that's where the juicy, good stuff of life can be. So, and we all have something to learn from each other here. So we do use invitation permission. We want you to feel like you can opt in or opt out of anything that's happening today, and with no judgment or no noticing of that. That is a hard thing. We really encourage folks to speak from the I and not the we. That is because as communicators in particular, we get caught up in the rhetoric of we can change the world. But the truth is we're all having different experiences of the world and we need to kind of own what is our own and not assume that we is a shared idea all the time. And then finally, as communicators, man, we have to talk precisely all the time. And perfection is one of those things we get praised for. But here, I like unedited. I love when people just can say what they need to say. So you are invited to dare to be unprepared today. And then finally, this is, if you take a look at the slide, it's really, you know, when we do art, we allow other parts of our brains to come online, I always say. It allows us to think through without thinking. It allows new insights to arrive. It allows more parts of ourselves to be present in the moment. And I think that there's something in the making, not just the writing on the computer, not just the reading in a passive way, but in the making of art that enables more to show. So that's why we're here. And I'm really excited to share with you a couple slides and a couple inspirations to get us started this morning on the idea of wholeness. So I'm going to play this. Let me make sure I've got sound. I'm going to stop the share for a minute because I want you to see this sound. So this is a friend of mine. Her name is Kim Clow, and all of her art is circles. It's all circles, and it's all expressions of circles. And so I thought that to me really represents is a vision of wholeness for me. And especially as we talk to each other on squares, we're all in our little boxes today. I thought a video she made that features her art would be kind of a lovely way to kind of welcome in wholeness for each other. So let me share the screen one more time. I'll play this for you. And we're going to use this as our grounding and as our moment to connect with ourselves so that we can connect with each other and the land and all the things that oppressive systems try to break us apart from. So enjoy a bit of Kim's work for these moments as a welcome. Welcome to anyone who's joined us in that interim. We are indeed here to shepherd the seeds of the new world. That's our actual job, not what the job description tells you is your job. And so I really think of communications as our responsibility. It's how we live out our responsibilities to each other often. And so it is a divine and sacred thing. Man, does that not appear in our world, in our job descriptions, and even in our own sector where we're here to do good. So that's why I'm so glad you're all here and taking a break and having some exploration together today. I'm just gonna now invite you we're actually gonna do some free writing to start us out today. And those of you who don't know this technique, it's one of my favorite facilitation techniques. It allows us to listen to ourselves first. And I think that's so important before we engage in any discussions. It is really around our ability to just like tap into our subconscious. And so the invitation to you is to take a piece of paper. And when the question is offered, you're going to start writing. And you're not going to edit yourself. That's the most important thing. You're going to follow your thoughts. And that means that if you see something out your window and you're like, oh, that flower is blooming, even that's going to be on the page. Because the idea is that everything that you're thinking is important and can reveal something. I'm here today, and I just want to say before we begin a little bit about why this notion of wholeness means a lot to me. Not only because my friend Neha is someone who reflects that back to me all the time. Oh, and this is her painting behind me, by the way, just to say hi to her. It's Dancing in the Revolution is the name of it. And I will also say, and I'll put her and Kim's links in the chat later. But I think this week in particular, for me with the IPCC report coming out, and my friend who's not in our world saying, I feel like crying. I said, well, we have to cry, actually. It's actually important for us to touch that grief so that we can do something different. But in the meantime, all that's being circulated is it's broken, it's fragmented, emergency, right? That's true. There's a lot of disconnection and fragmentation in our systems, in our institutions, in our organizations, also in ourselves. And so I just think we are surrounded by narratives without nuance. And it's not to say things aren't bad. It's to say when we categorize the world into good and bad, we're cutting ourselves up. We're starting to fragment ourselves between acceptable and unacceptable, worthy and unworthy. And man, that leaves us feeling separate and alone and scared about the state of the world, right? So what if that's all a lie? That's what I'm excited about. What if these binaries just aren't that useful? What if we're focused on what is whole, what is natural, what is connected in this moment? And then how does that shift how we are and how we react in the moment? And what if we communicated to people about alternatives to violence and struggle and poverty? How are we building their imagination for alternatives? That is literally our task in front of us. So we're doing all of this so like we can tap into our deepest knowing, because it's more important now than ever before. And that's a little rhetorical, sure. I can't leave all of that behind, but I think it's important for us to just really zero in on what is whole, what is unbroken, and what is always present if we're paying attention. So I invite you to free writing, and I'm going to put these invitations to free write also in the chat as we do this. So go ahead, I'm going to get my timer going. We'll do 2 minutes each. I'll be doing it with you, of course. And then we'll have some small groups where we can really go a little bit deeper. So we'll do 2 minutes. And the first question for you is, what does this notion of wholeness mean to you? Make a list. I'm going to invite you to just make a list. Call up every single word that you associate with the idea of wholeness. For me, it was circles, but what is it for you? So 2 minutes. Fifteen seconds left. Okay. Next question for you all. What does wholeness sound like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? Just describe it. Use a lot of metaphor, however you want to tap into that. 2 minutes. Okay, just a few more seconds. Okay. We'll do 2 more questions and then we'll do a little art making as well. So for 2 minutes, just recall a time when you really experienced that feeling of wholeness in yourself. What were the conditions? What was the environment or the context that allowed that feeling to come forward for you? Okay, 2 minutes. Welcome. Just a question in the chat that we're journaling on. All right. And our last question, a little bit of journaling for those who are new. What are the parts of you right now that long for reconnection, for wholeness? What do you need to rejoin, to gather up that has been separated for you? All right. We'll do 15 more seconds. Right. Got lots of good ideas here collected. Hope you have the same. And now I'm just gonna invite you to pull out that second piece of paper and your art supplies, however you want to express that. The invitation is now just to imagine wholeness for yourself. So you have the next 5 or so minutes to draw it, whatever that envisioning looks like for you. Again, you can use metaphors, you can explore just new ways of describing wholeness to yourself. Just anything that you can dream of visually is for you to begin work on. Now this 5 minutes will go fast, but the idea is not masterpiece at this moment. It's really just to help you capture the emotions and these ideas now in a visual way. Because not all of us think in words. Some of us think in pictures, right? And there's many ways to be. Isn't that the best part of this exercise to read, to know for ourselves? So I'm just going to start the time now. I'm going to also be a little bit vulnerable and read you a couple of my poems in the interim, just to further spark you. But we'll start the 5 minutes now, and then I'll have a few intercessions in there too. The first poem is called A Clean Break. Even if it will heal, even if there will be good as new promised, we will know that bone was once born whole. And to remind ourselves of this, of our strength and frailty at once, seems to be the task, the most best only thing to do. Blunt force cannot be repealed, especially by those who think it their right. Bone repairs, but tendon, ligament, vein is forever stretched. The muscles have memories, and neurons know their pathways. There is no undoing, no matter how clean the break. Here's a second poem for you all. Getting ourselves together. 1. We arrive curious. We arrive trepidatious. We arrive whole and burdened and with unearned privilege that our brilliant strategic minds want to use and deploy most effectively, of course. How do we? Who are we to, always beating on our breath? Can we dare to pause? See, consider that we are not alone. Dare to retrieve fortitude that we're not yet sure is there. Surrender ourselves to not knowing. And let's find the space where clarity and confidence and courage emerges. Perverse incentives, complicity, and paralysis be damned. No, really, damned. When we can dare to dream beyond the ordinariness of now. We fixers cannot remove in one day and one project colonial feet placed and remaining on people's necks, not on our own. And thank goodness. We arrive not to solve or figure it out. We realize, but to respond, then disrupt, and most importantly, to mend. Well, I really hope the beauty of what you've written and what you've created speaks to you. I'm going to welcome our new joining members of this circle. Really glad you're here. We've been exploring wholeness today. We've done some free writing where we responded to some journal prompts, and we've done some drawing, some creating in a visual form as well. And so now I'm gonna invite you into breakouts. Now, can be a little daunting when it's with strangers, and I just want to acknowledge that. But I just also trust that the people that are here are holding this vision of reimagining communications together. And so we have something in common, even though we're strangers. So I do hope that you're willing to join with your colleagues in this way. If not, just don't accept the invitation. No problem at all. So I'm going to put into the chat here just how we're going to spend these 10 minutes in the small groups together. Very simply, we'll just spend a little bit more time, who are you? And if you want to share anything about your representation of wholeness or what those words mean to you, if you have just joined, you're welcome to do so. And then for our reflection together, what's the part of our communications work in this sector that also needs rejoining and regathering to be made whole? And what are some of the conditions that could make that more possible? So I'm going to put you into groups of 3. So let me do my quick math here. 11, of course. I'm going to do breakout rooms. There we go. So you are in 5. I'm going to do 3 just in case. I'm going to do 3 breakout rooms. And if we get a few more people, that's okay. Okay. Awesome. You're invited into the rooms to have this discussion, and we'll talk soon. I'll give you a halfway mark as well. Hi.
There. See, I just invited you in because I was like, what are we supposed to be talking about?
No problem. We're just talking about wholeness, how we're relating to that idea.
I love it.
Yeah. And how we might make more space for that to come into our work.
Oh, make more space. That's the part. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. All right.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. We'll have about 5 minutes left.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Christine. You're muted.
Muted. We weren't done. How are you?
Oh, shoot.
I'm sorry. I got to rambling, and then our third person didn't get a chance to talk, and I'm like, So
Okay, well, I will,
how are you and I just here?
I think you probably just clicked it when it came.
I didn't.
They didn't.
I
You
didn't.
did it. I've done that before too. Mid-sentence.
Oh well. Sheriff, there's Doyle. Yeah, Doyle, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
Oh,
Well, do we still have 1 minute? Oh well.
Yeah.
Doyle.
oh no.
All right, I'm gonna mute. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just glad you're
No
all
problem
back.
at all.
People have smiles on their faces, so let's just keep sharing out of our small groups. What insights came? Any questions emerging for you? Where's there space for more wholeness? Just really curious. And I will say before conversation begins, we always go over the 1 hour. And that is totally okay. But if you have to bow out, also very understood and welcome. So yeah, what kind of came up for you in your groups? Any lessons or insights to share?
Yeah, I can say that, what came up, and my hands are covered in graphite from our drawing activity. So I'm covered in graphite. What I can say is that in the sharing, what came up as actually a set of distinctions I learned about recently that I was like, well, that's so interesting that we just covered so many of these, but I just really learned about the healthy mind platter, which is a way of thinking about, growing your healthy mind. And these 7 aspects really came up, almost all of them came up in our conversation about what it is to be whole, like what do you need for the wholeness, or where do you find it? And I have been recognizing that for me, my mind, I get so engaged in my work, and it's busy. And when the work stops, my mind is still busy. And what I've been doing, is I think a little unhealthy, which is, like turning to, oh, I'm going to listen to a podcast. That'll stop my mind. Like, why would that work? Or I'll watch a show and, and calm my mind down. And it actually doesn't. It just numbs me and delays the kind of reaction, or re-engages my mind in a different activity, right? And so I seem to be resistant to downtime and inward time. And so really finding some ways to create that as part of this healthy mind, part of this healthy world. And, really, I grew up in a family of doers. So, really like making it not just okay, but necessary, right? For downtime and time in. I think that's where I found myself going.
Thanks, Katrina. Saw lots of nodding heads. Who else wants to share?
I have to drop off, but luckily the next activity is also a wholesome one, or a wholeness related one, which is a book club. But I just want to say I really related to what you said, Katrina. And I wrote that, when do I feel whole? It's when I slow down and really allow myself to feel what I'm actually feeling. So not just surface emotions, but going, 10 levels below that, what might be sitting down there that I haven't paid any attention to. And that's when I can commune. And I think others in the group talked about nature, and that reminded me, I've recently been to the New Forest here in the UK, and there's something about walking. I think the Japanese have this concept of forest bathing, when you walk through the forest, and actually doctors prescribe this as a way of achieving wholeness. So this is making me want to go find a forest this weekend. And gratitude to you, Jennifer. Thank you so much for organizing.
Glad you were here, Alex. Thanks. Anyone else?
I think in the conversation, what first came out to me was when I thought of wholeness, how it felt. I felt that it was like being on a train, because you are sort of on the move, but still in one place at the same time. And in the conversation that I had with Joelle and Christine, it was how do we find this wholeness? And I think we sort of touched on how we see each other, like how we're able to go through the constructs, go through the narratives, and really connect with each other. So those were my 2 thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much. And to really value that space within our busy professional lives is now sometimes like the wedge we've got to get in the door, which is, oh, we can actually slow down. And we actually need to slow down for the changes ahead. Because if we don't, we can't see each other. We can't get below the surface. We can't let our healthy mind regulate to each other if we're running all the time, right? So yes, thank you for that, all of you. Anyone else?
So I'll just go. So in terms of slowing down, I'm going to have to gear up because I have to leave, but for a meeting. But in terms of slowing down, a feeling of wholeness, I think for me it was when I was thinking about it, it was being part of something, being connected. And one of the things that came up was when dancing, because it was connecting the physical with the mental, and just being completely whole. So yeah, for me that was one sense that bubbled up. But I'm afraid I have to go.
Thank you for being here, Jenny. It was great to see you.
It's lovely to see you, and thank you. Bye. See you soon.
Right. All right. Christine or Joelle or Miss Ashley, anything you want to add? Juliet?
I'm interested to hear what Joelle would have said in the last part of our conversation.
No. Yeah. No, notwithstanding that, I mean, just the way Sheriff said, we had a really good conversation in terms of wholeness. And I mean, even when the rest of us are sharing, I think we're touching upon a lot of same things. We are talking about stillness in different ways, whether we're on the train or my drawing was of a garden full of flowers and lots of colors. So, just trying to look for these moments of peace and what we can get from them. And then the conversation which we couldn't have in more detail in terms of, how do we really facilitate better conversations? How do we bring more stories from the grassroots to more people who need to hear them? I think those were things we spoke about in terms of how can we sort of bring this to the work we do. And I think Katrina mentioned also about, all the swirls in the head, and Christine's drawing also had a lot of that. And, I also felt like I'm someone who, like, I've been on so many of these calls. I think I'm more of a listener, less of a speaker, but I do take so much from this space, and it's always just so nourishing to even hear what all of us are going through. And yeah, I think that's just my 2 cents on it.
Oh, we're glad you're here. Thanks for being here. Anyone else?
Okay.
Juliet.
Yeah. So when we were talking about how we experience wholeness, I think we came up with commonalities, the idea of being in nature, but also connection with another human being. And I think those are things which, well, I mean, I have lots of connections with human beings, but these are things that clearly I feel I'm missing at the moment. But having said that, we're talking about how busy we are, and I've actually slowed down a little bit in August, and that's the only reason I'm here. It's scheduled slowdown. but I met up with a friend the other week who she remained a mother and a housewife, and she was kind of regretting not having a career. So I think there's a balance there, isn't there? The wholesome is more than nature and connection. It is intellectual or feeling of purpose. Those words didn't come up originally in my list, but now they have. So thanks. Thank you.
Thanks. And how do we extend wholeness amidst difference, right? You as friends have had different paths, but there's still something that holds you together. That's the wholeness. We're more than the labels, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was thought trailing since our conversations and since the writing. I told my new friends that you would ask the question, a time when I experience wholeness, and I was writing, I can experience wholeness, I can get there during solitude, but I have many thoughts and I have lots of good ideas, but I don't allow myself enough opportunity to synthesize all that. And your very next question was, so what needs to be gathered up? And I almost fell apart a little bit, but I mean, so the thing that I'm thinking about wholeness now is it's something to be deliberate about. We need to attend to it, what you pay attention to grows, that thing. And also mended things are whole and sometimes even more beautiful than the original. And, yeah, so thank you for this. This is nice and rich and kind of hard.
That is my goal.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Yeah.
And these questions of wholeness do reveal hard things sometimes. And how do we even welcome that so that we can ask for what we need? It's okay to ask for what we need. It's okay to share our quest for wholeness, because no one can actually achieve it alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of what is whole to me is shared. And if it's not shared, it maps to systems of capitalism, systems of oppression. And I'm done with that. We got enough of that. Now we need to turn to something else, right? So here we are. We're turning to it right now together. Yeah. Any burning? I feel like I should close soon. Miss Ashley, did you want to share it at all? She's now.
Thank you. It's been an interesting session. I've enjoyed it. In my breakout group, I learned about the healthy mind platter, which I think is very brilliant. As I was talking about, I don't have time for wholeness anymore. Like life's too fast, life's too busy. And I was saying, as a young girl, I liked smelling flowers and just connecting with the earth, playing in the rain, having my feet in mud. Now the very things I like are the very things that I find a burden. And with my work in communications, I've just finished documenting stories on gender-based violence. And I just wondered, perhaps why we are so broken is because we are not whole. Because imagine if we were whole, then the thought of damaging another person would not cross our minds, right? So I just wondered what needs to be made whole in the work that I do, but also for myself, because then I could easily become just as broken and just as damaged and damage another human being. And I just want to be that little girl playing in the rain and happy that it's raining, not annoyed that it's raining, and literally smelling the roses. Yeah, so that's my checkout. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. This sense of playfulness and joy is critical to holding our wholeness, right? We should definitely draw more pictures and dance in the rain more. And how do we help each other? How do we invite each other into that joy and that playfulness? Hopefully these sessions are part of what also helps us do that, is to really connect to each other and then just to explore something without judgment or even real objective, right? There's no goal we had to reach by the end of this session. Oh, yes. Sometimes we don't even have to have a goal. Sometimes we can just be, and that is enough. That is glorious, in fact, that we are alive in this moment. So Ashley, please take care of yourself after a project like that and hold your wholeness in particular. We're going to hold it with you because it's so important to bring up these issues, particularly of violence, and it's so hard. Such hard work on all the levels, on all the levels. So I really thank you all for being here. Next month's session is on September the 8th, and that's the link to it there if you want to RSVP. We're here every month, and if you have any ideas for guests, people you want to hear from, themes, topics, we're really open and excited just to always welcome you. Thanks for being here. And have a great rest of your day, evening, or tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Take
Jennifer.
care.
Bye, Sheriff and Dole.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, and bye.